Hi, and welcome to another episode of Wisdom Downloads. My name is Christoph Melchizedek. It's great to be sharing in the public domain after so many years behind the scenes. So, my thoughts for today, I want to talk about the three pillars to get you through this crisis. The three foundations upon which you can not only get through this crisis, but build your entire life around. Imagine these three pillars and concepts I'm about to share with you making up like a stool, like three pillars to a stool, which formulate, a beautiful balanced place to sit. Take any one of these pillars away, the stool's going to collapse. So the biggest aspects of these, if you can put these essential pillars in your life, you're going to not go far wrong, certainly during this time when you're being squeezed. First pillar is faith. Faith is a number of things. Faith in there's something greater than you that is playing out through all of this. Faith in the divine presence, in the eternal life. Having faith in the spiritual realms is so key at this time, because when you have a strong faith, or even deeper than a faith, you have a knowing that your physical vessel is a temporarily being housed by your eternal consciousness. You lose the fear of death. That's the first thing. When you take the fear of death out of the equation, there's nothing to fear in the virus. And when you take the fear of survival out of the equation, because you're in eternal consciousness, you can't possibly be affected by temporary discomfort of economic hardship. You lose that fear of uncertainty and the unknown. One of the great sayings I love is by Mark Twain, the author. I've had a great deal of many troubles in my life, most of which have never happened. And if you track all your worries and all your concerns and all your anxieties and frustrations, they come back to this key piece of that, what I call the first energy center, the first chakra issues is safety and survival. And when you know that you're always safe, and when you know that you're going to eternally live, through that consciousness that comes through you, you let go of the fear of death, and you let go of the fear of, temporary economics. Your existential survival is no longer at risk because of that strong faith. And when you have that as a core foundation, you begin to lose the anxiety. The problem is that we've created a society and a medical industry which has done a very good job of creating the first wounding of separation, abandonment anxiety, which you feel separate from source. The first piece of that is literally when the doctor cuts the umbilical cord, which connects you to the placenta, which is the organic tree of life. The placenta is your eternal connection to the Creator, held in the most sacred of sacred, holy holies, the placenta. And we've brought our children into the world where we keep the placenta connected to them for as long as they feel they need, and the child themselves takes off the placenta. And when they're ready, for my son Noah, it was 5 days. For my daughter Aurora, it was 3 days. When they are ready and they feel they have got all that energy, vibration, and consciousness from the placenta, which spews out these amazing auric field colors and absorbs into the baby, so they feel full and complete. Unfortunately, many of us haven't had that, and we had that cord cut, which immediately separates us from source. And so what we do is we spend the rest of our life putting together the pieces of our fractured consciousness, the wounds and the imprints. Now, the piece that gets you through is the faith, knowing that, okay, conceptually I know that there's a creator, a grand design that I'm moving myself into and towards. You have to do the inner work to heal those aspects so that you know you're at one with source. When you grow and evolve spiritually and you really work on to bulletproof that faith, and you know you're at one with source, there's never anything to fear, because you know that it's always going to work out well for you, because you're eternally connected to unconditional love and all that is. And when you bring all that is, the isness and that consciousness down into you, you will always move through the flow with ease and grace in your life. So faith, that is the key piece. The next piece is family. Having your family rooted in the right value system is absolutely important. Having loved ones around you at this time, and while you may indeed be isolated at home at this time, you can also very much be able to connect remotely, connect in, call up people, make sure you're rooted and connected. My family is the most important thing in my universe. We do all that we can to shore ourselves up and align ourselves off the core values that we operate our family around. We are super aligned in our value sets, my wife and Alea and I, and it brings it through into the children. So we're looking to create that harmony. Family is the real bedrock that you can build your life around, and so we always try to make sure that we're putting as much energy, love, effort into the beauty of our family environment as we possibly can. This is like a great pleasure and privilege to be able to do that, to be able to bring all of our energies and efforts into making our life beautiful, like a piece of art. In creating the harmony and the balance. And sure, there's frictions from time to time, like all families, but using it as an internal inquiry to allow ourselves to grow. When Alea and I met, we made a conscious decision to dissolve and cut all of our contracts. Contracts can be held both physically in the physical world, but they're also held in the spiritual world, which often brings people together and sometimes unnecessarily to keep relearning lessons that haven't been dealt with from lifetime to lifetime. So we dissolved all of our contracts bar one, that we would stay together as long as we keep growing together. And that is what the beauty and the sanctity of family is all about, is growth. And when you can grow together and keep evolving together, your family keeps flourishing. And so what we're being asked to look into now with this coronavirus is we're coming into our family unit. And all of the things that haven't been resolved, haven't been dealt with, are probably coming up for clearing right now. You're probably being triggered, or you're probably being, handled with certain situations with not so much ease and grace because it's right in your face. The very things that you've been avoiding with the distractions of working life aren't there anymore. You're just sitting there with what is. And if you haven't dealt with the isness of unresolved pain, of resentments that maybe you've transferred from your father or your mother over to your partner, because essentially what happens in these relationships is that you end up dating your partner's parents until your partner has dealt with overcoming their parents' issues, and so it is for you. And so you can use each other as this catalyst to keep evolving. So at this time of a bit of self-imposed isolation in a family unit and container, we're being asked to grow and evolve this aspect of one of the three pillars, which is fantastic. If you've got the first one anchored down, family, faith, then you know that you're going to get through this, and this too will pass. Excuse me, just to deal with my call here. I hardly ever get phone calls. Probably someone trying to get me some money or something. So this whole faith and family is all about building these anchor points, for your life to be sort of really grounded and properly in. With a strong faith, your family, you can evolve and grow and know that this too will pass. The third element of this stool is frequency. Your personal energy field, your frequency, energy, and vibration is something that you can then also begin to cultivate and manage, because your internal state of your personal energy field and vibration creates your outer world. And the simplest way that I can explain this is through a metaphor of like movie projector. Imagine that you've got a movie you're watching and it's up on the screen, but you don't really like the movie. So the only way that you're going to be able to change what you see on the screen is not going up to the screen and trying to change the external reality of what you're seeing, but you have to go into the movie projector itself. And inside that movie projector, to go and adjust it, to get a different view of what you want to see up on the movie screen, you have to go to the film. And the film is like your DNA. And your DNA has these different oscillation rates, vibrational frequencies, particles. And when you're operating at a low frequency set point, your DNA expresses itself in certain ways, which are more your shadow states and tendencies, which tend to create the hiccups and the glitches and the things going on in your life. And you end up with the black and white old style film up on the screen you don't really like on repeat, until you can raise the wavelengths of your vibrational energy, frequency, and consciousness up to a higher level. Then the light that shines onto the film is like your consciousness. So if you're shining with a tiny little pen light ball of consciousness, you're not going to project a big decent screen of film onto the screen from your reality. You're only projecting a little bit. This is kind of like looking at life through a straw with a very narrow set of perceptions. When you have a small consciousness, you can't make sense of what's going on around you. You tend to be too much in panic and survival consciousness. When you grow beyond that, you can see greater patterns playing out, greater cycles in evolutionary times. Every single issue is laid with much more potentiality and possibility through the lens of an expanded consciousness. So expanding that consciousness becomes super important. And the lens upon which the light shines onto the film creates the projection of light through the lens is like your chakras. And each of your chakras have been holographically programmed by your parents and by your society and by certainly from the time in the womb, where the frequency and the energy in the room and the household was literally the first fusing of frequency into your physiology. So if your mother was constantly in fear, you see the world through the lens of fear, because that was literally the first coating of frequency on your physiology was fear. Then as you grow into these first 7-8 years, your field is completely open. So there's no screens on your chakras. So you're just basically absorbing whatever was in the household with your parents. So unless you do some work on yourself, you end up living as that programming parameter for your life, and ends up creating the projections which create and drive your life by. So your frequency, which is that combination which oscillates through the DNA, which is the film, and the light which shines onto the film, which is like your consciousness, and your energy centers, like your chakras, which project out your reality, create and shape what you see, sense, and perceive in the world. Now, collectively, humanity has created some projections that of not our liking right now, and this incident with the coronavirus and self-imposed isolations and keeping separate from things are our reflections back of what we have created collectively. What we're able to do is to go into our own internal landscape of our own movie projector and start changing the energy, frequency, and consciousness of our own internal state. When we all collectively do that, we will start operating at a faster oscillation rate. And that will create a better, cleaner signal of what we will see, sense, and perceive around us. Kind of like moving from, standard black and white to standard definition to kind of HD to 4K to 8K, I believe the next thing is super high def view around us of our own choosing and liking. And it's us collectively, how we all begin to raise our collective vibration and frequency, how we will start populating the world as we want it to be. So those three phases, when you start to consciously work on your faith, consciously work on your family, and consciously work on your frequency, you will not only begin to survive this time we are in, but you'll begin to prosper and thrive. You'll begin to build the frequency and utilize this time almost like a caterpillar in the womb of the chrysalis that is working on itself to crystallize into the butterfly. This is the opportunity we have at this time. So it's my great request that you utilize this time very wisely to better yourself, better your family, better your faith, better your frequency, because when you emerge from this chrysalis of this time we have together collectively at home, we have to come into the world and make changes. And we can only make those changes when our oscillation rate and our harmony of our family is right, and our faith in God and Spirit and the divine plan is solid. And we then can take our creative endeavors out into the world and make the changes, trusting and knowing that the divine presence will guide us through the luminosity of our high heart, which is here, where our sole purpose resides. And when we follow that luminosity, it will always take us to where we want to go. Now, sure, we've got some challenges in front of us, but they're challenges of our own making. Collectively, we have created this drama. Now we're going to collectively uncreate it and create something better, because for the first time, we've got the balance of fusion of energy of the masculine and feminine simultaneously fused coming through our fields to create this new fusion of frequency and creation of balance in the world. It's up to us to go out and build the better systems, but we can't do it without anchoring down those three pillars: faith, family, frequency. Now go make it happen. Namaste.